Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have a multitude of energetic events that are converging together starting now and going through this weekend in what I call a grand energy convergence. And these are typically linked to very striking or disruptive events, and that can occur across a multitude of domains, from social to political to geologic, for example, high magnitude earthquakes. And so the sequence of events is as follows. We have a coronal hole high-speed stream, which is set to impact the Earth, trigger a G1 storm, increase the solar wind velocity, and decrease that solar wind density, which is one of those factors that we look for as it relates to an increased probability of high magnitude earthquakes. And then right after that, early September 6th, we have Uranus stationing retrograde. This is the planet Uranus out at 20 astronomical units. It's going to appear stationary in our night sky before it then starts retrograde motion. And Uranus is the planet that's linked to disruptive Earth changes like earthquakes or volcanic eruptions and more. It's linked to that Promethean archetypal influence of sudden liberation or awakening. And Uranus is closely conjunct Sedna, a small trans-Newtonian dwarf planet that has an about 12,000 year orbit around the sun, and it's very close to its perihelion right now. So it's in the heliosphere interacting with the overall solar system, and Uranus at 20 AU is extending a leash out to it effectively, an energetic connection. And well, I use that conjunction of Uranus and Sedna as a forecasting tool back in July for the potential megaquake, which we did end up getting, that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. Well, they're less than 1 degree conjunct at this moment in time, and when you have a planet that stations, whether retrograde or direct, it amplifies its energies. Following up right after that, we then have a solar storm impact from a plasma filament which launched off from the sun, and that is expected to hit us late on September 6th, early on September 7th, and NOAA is estimating that that will raise the geomagnetic conditions from a G1 level to a G2 level. That at least is a possibility. So we're going to be having a geomagnetic storm from both of these solar influences as Uranus is stationing retrograde, which already creates this enhanced Promethean and Uranian energy signature, which is very much connected to earthquakes. And we have a full moon on the 7th. And well, it's not just any full moon, it is a blood moon. So it's a total lunar eclipse. The moon at its fullest position will pass through the ecliptic plane, meaning it'll get blocked by the Earth. So the Earth will cast its shadow on the moon, therefore casting into a blood red hue. And this is a very powerful energy signature. We're in eclipse season. This is the first eclipse that we have this September. We also have a partial solar eclipse that follows next. That'll be the new moon a week after that occurs. So around September 21st or 22nd, right before we have the autumnal equinox. And so we have this sequence going from coronal hole high-speed stream impact, triggering a geomagnetic storm as Uranus stations retrograde. Another solar storm follows up behind, likely increasing the geomagnetic volatility. And then we have the full moon turn blood red with this total lunar eclipse. And already when you have the moon in Earth's magnetotail and in the plazosphere, you have overall more energetic volatility within the magnetic field. And so that's also likely to contribute to slightly greater geomagnetic flux. Then after that, we have some critical planetary geometry as Mercury performs a superior conjunction with the sun, though that is after this week, and that specifically is around September 12th to the 13th. But this grand energy convergence leads into that critical planetary geometry, and there will be an earthquake watch after all this unfolds, and of course during. And while we're seeing some very unusual earthquake activity in Afghanistan, where there was a magnitude 6 earthquake that killed 1,000 plus people, now they've been having aftershocks and they haven't let up, and they are anomalously large for the size of that main shock. So to me, it looks like this is preliminary activity before a higher magnitude earthquake. That's not guaranteed, but it definitely looks like that. And well, Afghanistan is right in the center of that total blood moon lunar eclipse, because that is going to be visible from Eurasia. We're not going to see it in North America, but Afghanistan is going to be right there at the apex of that. So very interesting grand energy convergence ahead of us. Hopefully we do okay. I think we'll get through it, but let's dive into exactly what this means. Now, before we get into the report, I'd like to let you know that I have a big birthday sale right now at earthevolution.com/store because, well, it's my birthday today. And so everything on the site is 15% off. I almost never give these discounts above 10% because I already sell these things at very fair prices, but I do 15% discounts on my birthday. I did this last year as well. So all the products are discounted 15% with the code BIRTHDAY25. And so spirituality, herb coffee, boom shakalaka t-shirts, those are the top sellers. They're all great products, helps you sleep, rest, relax, enhances your dreams. Herb coffee is really good for promoting neuroplasticity, focus, and more. And you see all these other herbal tea blends that we have, all organic, some of the best stuff that you can buy. There's, of course, these earthing shoes. This is really what you want to use these 15% discounts on because that really knocks the price down quite a bit. And then there's some other products as well, some natural soil pigment art prints that you can pick up, solar storm tumbler for your coffee or for your herb coffee. I'll talk about this more at the end of the video, but I wanted to let you know that this birthday discount is active till the end of Sunday. And so you can use the code BIRTHDAY25, right, for 15% off anywhere at earthevolution.com/store. So first up, we have this coronal hole high-speed stream impact that's set to come in any moment now as I'm recording this video. Here we have that coronal hole. This is the 13th rotation of this coronal hole. You'll notice that's very, very large, though it used to be bigger. It looks like it's finally starting to get a bit smaller, and it has these trans-equatorial portions to it. So it is mostly there in the southern hemisphere. It is a positive polarity, so it doesn't connect the nicest to Earth's magnetic field, but as a result of this positive polarity, it does create stronger Birkeland currents in the auroral zone. And this trans-equatorial portion there will ensure that some of that high-speed stream will sweep by Earth. Because if it's really located just in one hemisphere, higher up or further down, then it can kind of flow below or above the ecliptic plane. This ensures that it will hit us. You will also notice this plasma filament that launches off there on the 4th. That is responsible for this solar storm that is going to come in. You'll see this pop off pretty quick. Also a lot of solar flaring just above it, but there's that plasma filament. High velocity, we'll look at that next. And that is following up after this coronal hole high-speed stream, which is again a high-speed stream. So there's not going to be much slowdown on that plasma filament as a result. That solar storm coming in isn't going to be encountering any slow solar wind structures. So it should arrive here on Earth sooner. And when you get that solar wind velocity to go up, that just in general increases geomagnetic volatility. And then to get a solar storm on top of that and get the magnetic field to bump up in strength and perhaps connect with a nice southward component, well, this could give us some pretty significant geomagnetic storming. So the official forecast is G1, G2, but with Uranus stationing retrograde and some of these other factors like the full moon and also that being a total lunar eclipse, I would just add like a wild card to everything over this weekend. So a lot could happen as it relates to Earth geologic events. I think the most likely thing would be significant earthquakes, but this could also be significant volcanic activity because we are seeing a lot of volcanic activity in 2025 and it seems to be building up to something. Earthquake activity too has also been notable. It's been the 6th strongest year for earthquake activity since we've had modern seismic measurements because of that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. We've had a whole bunch of magnitude 7s, of course 6s, and so we could get another magnitude 7 in the next few days. Perhaps bigger than that, though I wouldn't place bets on a magnitude 8 plus, but high magnitude 6, low magnitude 7 is certainly in the cards for the earthquake watch following the impact of this coronal hole high-speed stream and going all the way through Mercury Cassini, which is September 13th. And right around the time of that coronal hole high-speed stream impact, we have the 7th planet out in our solar system, Uranus, stationing retrograde. And so Uranus is at 20 astronomical units, occupies a pretty interesting position in the solar system. It is a gas giant, one of these icy gas giants. Jupiter, for example, at 5.2 astronomical units is pretty close to the inner solar system, but it also is close to the other outer gas giants. It's kind of the conductor in the middle. Uranus, though, is pretty far out. It's not as far out as Neptune, but it's interacting with all those trans-Newtonian objects like Sedna, but it's also interacting with Saturn and Jupiter closer in. And it has an 84-year orbital revolution around the sun, which is nearly the same length of time as a Gleisberg cycle, which is this variation in solar activity over about a 80 to 100 year time frame. So it appears that Uranus and Neptune together modulate solar activity over this century-long time frame or so. And so it shows that Uranus has quite a lot of effects energetically in the solar system. We often find when Uranus stations direct or retrograde, it's stationary in the sky for a moment in time, a couple days, that coincides with notable energetic events because Uranus is the planet of sudden change, disruption, a little bit of chaos. It will do what it needs to get certain things to happen. And so it's not a benefic, it's not a malefic, it's just this agent of sudden change and awakening. It's very Promethean, more so than representing the archetype of Uranus, the Greek god, the primordial sky god. It really represents the Promethean archetype, which is all about liberation and radical awakening and self-actualization and more. Prometheus being the god that gave humans fire, which was against the will of the gods. So we have a lot to thank Prometheus for and expect notable events to unfold around this station retrograde of Uranus. And remember, it's less than 1 degree conjunct Sedna, that trans-Newtonian dwarf object, linked to the myth of Sedna, the Inuit goddess of the deep, deep sea. And well, when Uranus moved within that 1 degree engagement range, just a few days afterwards is when we had that magnitude 8.8 megaquake. And while Uranus is that planet of disruption and earthquakes, it just moved out of Taurus, which is fixed Earth, is loaded up with this Earth energy. Sedna just moved out of Taurus after a very long stay there of about 40 years. Sedna being the deep, deep ocean. And while we had that deep earthquake in the ocean off the Kamchatka Peninsula, which triggered a tsunami that propagated out across the Pacific Ocean. So you really can't make this stuff up. It's really quite striking. So everything that's going to happen this weekend in general is given a +1 amplifier, I would say, because of Uranus stationing retrograde. And we can look at our combined time-synchronized C3 coronagraph view and 304 angstrom view of the sun to see this plasma filament that launched out, that launched a full halo coronal mass ejection towards us, meaning that there is a solar storm inbound. So the full halo coronal mass ejection is a little difficult to see with this C3 coronagraph view, but give it a watch right here. It's going to show up right around 1800 UTC, kind of a push out in all directions. There it is. You also notice Mercury now appearing on the coronagraph, about to do its superior conjunction. That'll be around September 12th to 13th. We often get notable activity during superior conjunctions of Mercury because it is the planet closest to the sun with the highest orbital velocity. And so it performing this superior conjunction on the outside. So it goes Earth, Sun, Mercury, often lines up with these changing electric circuit dynamics that often launch things our way. And we could be seeing that effect already with this plasma filament that launched off. Here we see that. Give this a watch. You'll see the center section and the plasma filament like sprays south and then flings it up, which is pretty crazy. Look at that. It's like a fire hose, really. So that is pretty cool. Though that is going to give us an impact, and some people, they really feel these, especially ultra sensitive people. There are a ton of biophysical effects from space weather, geomagnetic storms, and other energetic influences on Earth like earthquakes, volcanoes, Schumann resonances, and more. So make sure you ground yourself during this time frame of today through the weekend, and really, honestly, you should be doing this all the time. Ideally, you're grounding yourself during the key points of the day, which would be dawn, noon, when the sun is directly overhead, dusk, and then also while you're sleeping, which would be nighttime, with like a grounding sheet plugged into a ground rod outside, not into the wall outlet. So I have earthing shoe products available at earthevolution.com/store. Again, everything 15% off right now with the code BIRTHDAY15. Barefoot is also a fantastic way to ground yourself if you're out in a lawn and you know it's nice and clean. But if you have any bit of uncertainty or the ground is rough or terrain uneven or it's just not practical to be barefoot, then earthing shoes allow you to be grounded more often through your day-to-day, which is really important. But this is coming in early on the 7th, and then we'll have that total lunar eclipse. But first, let's check out the UK space weather model for this. And here we have the space weather model for that solar storm impact as provided by the UK Met Office, and we see that propagate out right there, pretty nicely lined along that ecliptic plane, so some passing to north to south, hitting us effectively square on. And we'll also notice this propagation out. It isn't off to the western limb, it isn't off to the east, it is right there smack dab on us. And so that's coming at a pretty high velocity. We see that spike in the plasma density there, and a spike in the velocity up to 750 kilometers per second, according to this model. Take this with a grain of salt. These are all just models. They do not reflect reality, but the models provided by the UK Met Office, I think, are probably the best because they include all the different things that happen in one run as it's relevant. That's right around the beginning of September 7th universal time. So that is when that's expected to come in, and that's going to closely align with that total lunar eclipse. Let's check it out. So here we have a visualization of this total lunar eclipse as provided by Time and Date. I'll put a link to this in the video description. We see the moon here, it's a full moon passing into Earth's penumbra, which is the outer shadow that the Earth creates. And then we see it passing into Earth's umbra, and this is the complete shadow of the Earth. And so the sun, Earth, and moon will be perfectly aligned. And when the moon enters into this umbra, it turns a dark blood red color. And this will last for some time, as you can see. So because Earth's shadow is not just a super tiny point, it has a little bit of width to it. So it'll be in that shadow for a few hours. This will be visible from most of Eurasia, and then eventually it will pass out. It'll be in the penumbra for another brief moment, and then it'll exit out, and then we're on our way to the partial solar eclipse that will be right around the equinox. But in general, eclipses are very powerful moments in time, and these sort of blood moons have a lot of significance to them. Historically, they've been seen as really powerful omens of change and disruption, and usually not of good things happening because of that blood red color. But just, you can believe what you want to believe. In general, though, you can consider that this is an exact planetary alignment. So you have stronger gravitational forces as a result of this. The tides will be stronger. And you also have this moon exactly on the ecliptic in the magnetotail interacting with the plastosphere. So we don't have to get into myth and archetype to see how these sort of energetic events can influence us here on Earth. But there is the full moon effect, of course, socially and psychically, and then there are full moon effects as it relates to tidal forces. This is not only ocean tides, but Earth tides. We see that earthquakes are more common during new moons and full moons, and the highest magnitude earthquakes typically occur right around a new moon or full moon. So that is a known effect. You can look it up in the literature. We also know that these lunar variations create tellurics. So these are electric currents in the Earth. And so there are lunar tellurics that are always kind of propagating at different times based on the rhythms of the moon and those tidal forces. And so the moon is not to be underestimated, in the fact that we're having this geomagnetic storm and Uranus stationing retrograde during this most powerful total lunar eclipse blood moon is quite striking. And this is a big modifier on this grand energy convergence. And honestly, this is the main event that is unfolding. I think this increased energy flux as a result of the geomagnetic storm and Uranus stationing retrograde is going to be a modifier to this event, and less so this modifying what's going to occur there. So when you have greater energy flux, people in general are a little bit more scattered and just kind of like all over the place. Notable is that we had a geomagnetic storm occur right at the beginning of 9/11. So there was a solar storm impact that came in right at the beginning of the planes crashing into the tower. So it's a very interesting alignment where sometimes you get these crazy things to occur right as you have these notable energetic Earth events. And here we can see where this blood moon total lunar eclipse is visible from. So the entire eclipse will be visible from this area that is shaded here in red. and then other parts like partial viewing is seen here. So a lot of Europe is not going to see this total lunar eclipse, but the moment you get over into like the Middle East and Eurasia and then into China and Southeast Asia, they will see it completely. Also down to Australia, and maybe the 2 people that live on Antarctica will see it as well. But you'll notice that we have here India, we have Pakistan, Afghanistan. This is right where these earthquakes are occurring. It's right in the main shadow event for this total lunar eclipse. I think that's very notable because we are seeing this already pop off, and it seems to be kind of amplifying and leading up to something. And well, this is only a few days away now. So let's check out this unusual earthquake swarm in Afghanistan that looks like it's foreshock activity for something bigger. Here we have our USGS latest earthquakes map, and we're going to punch right in on Afghanistan near Jalalabad, which is where these earthquakes have been occurring. There was a magnitude 6 that occurred just a few days ago, which I covered, and that has already resulted in 1,000+ deaths. So you see that it was a red pager, which means that 1,000+ people perished from that, thousands injured, and a lot of devastation. It was a really significant earthquake for the people there, which is common for these sort of places where they don't have the best infrastructure. Because of that, it kills a lot of people because it's just not built strong enough to withstand significant earthquakes. And this was at a very shallow depth of 8 kilometers, so that shaking is really amplified as a result. But if we go to the newest earthquakes first, you'll see that that magnitude 6 there is near the very bottom of this list, okay? So this is set for the past 7 days. We see the magnitude 6 there, and then you'll notice a whole bunch of magnitude 5, so 5.2, 5.2, 5.2. Then we have this 5.6. Is that an aftershock? Well, it could be, but it was about 5 days after that magnitude 6, which is kind of outside that range of a normal aftershock. Typically, it's within like 48 hours, and it's also pretty close. Usually, the aftershock will be 1 magnitude less. Well, that's a 5.6, and we also had a bunch of 5.2s, which would be that 1 magnitude less. So the fact that we've had, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 magnitude 5 earthquakes after that magnitude 6 really seems to me that this is a foreshock sequence that's unfolding, and as a result, usually a foreshock, the strongest one, will be 1 magnitude less than the main shock. So we could be looking at a magnitude 7 earthquake in this area that's already been devastated from that magnitude 6. A magnitude 7 releases 32 times more energy. The peak amplitude is 10 times greater. So that ground shaking that they had, if it was at the same depth, it would be way more than that magnitude 6. There's a huge landslide risk in this area from these mountains. There's also a liquefaction risk in these river valleys where you have these sediments that have settled down because they're not that consolidated, so they really amplify and move and resonate with these surface waves that are generated. And so I'm just looking at this area very closely, and it's being impacted by this eclipse as we saw, and it's in this area where you get big earthquakes, like really big earthquakes. So it is certainly possible that we get a magnitude 7 in that area, and or something like that, like magnitude 6.5, let's say, to magnitude 7.5. I say it's all within the cards. We hope it doesn't happen, but because of all these factors and how this looks like a foreshock sequence, this is something to be aware of. But there are other places on the globe, as you can see. This is our earthquake activity for the past week, as I said. So we have this magnitude 6 there in Alaska. Fairly close to where we had that 7.3. There have been other magnitude 5 earthquakes here as well, but just 2 of them, right? This is more normal, 5.1, 5.1, and then those were after that 6.0. So that follows the normal distribution for an earthquake and then aftershocks. Whereas in Afghanistan, as you saw, it's kind of different, it's much different. So that is what's been happening earthquake-wise. Really, Afghanistan being the most notable place for the past week. But anywhere could go. It's really hard to predict this stuff. But when you see things like that, that is when you want to ring the bells, because this is a pretty clear sequence and we have that earthquake space weather coming up. So that is it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Wishing all of you well during this grand energy convergence. It's a fantastic opportunity to take that energy incorporate it, integrate it, and pursue creative endeavors as a result. Because if these energies hit you in an especially resonant way and you just kind of let them sit there, then they'll find some expression that may not be of your liking. So in my mind, the best way to use these energies is to do so consciously. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to just actually work those energies out through your body through a nice walk or exercise or maybe even vigorous exercise. These are all good things to do. Yoga is fantastic, but also any sort of creative endeavor, painting or writing or journaling, creating a video like this. All of these things are good uses of this energy in a constructive way and not in a way that's going to be deconstructive, because that sometimes is what happens. You may come down and get a cold or something, a big splitting headache for 3 days. You can't sleep. Like, these energies need an outlet. What also helps is all these products here, which is why I have this website in the first place. These are my holistic wellness products. These all organic herbal tea blends. We make and mix ourselves, my father and I. He helps out now. And then all the other products are also there to assist you energetically, like the Super Optical Clarity Quartz crystals, like the 100% natural fiber shirts, like the Pahoa t-shirt there, linen and cotton, or the Boom Shakalaka shirt, 100% cotton. That's the merch. But the grounding shoes are really, really key. So if you like to help equalize your energies to a better degree, then earthing shoes are really key because they allow you to be grounded more often in your day-to-day, because most people aren't barefoot hippies. I love them, but it's just simply not the case for most people to walk around barefoot at the, in the city or at the office or whatever. So you can be grounded when you're out and about with these shoes because they are completely conductive. The entire shoe is conductive. There's zero rubber in these shoes, sandals, and boots. They have that copper plug. The bottom is leather, and they're the best out there. They're intelligently designed by me, made by my friends in Turkey, shipped out to you. You'll receive them about 3 weeks or so after you order them, made to size. And again, everything is 15% off right now with the code BIRTHDAY25. And so I hope you use that discount. It expires at the end of September 7th. During this grand energy convergence. So happy to support you all with these products at earthevolution.com/store. Thank you all so much for watching. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video.